Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Interworldwide Podcast. Today we're talking about Sampdoria with Enrico Contini. Ciao Enrico, come stai?
Ciao Alessandro, everything's well. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, Enrico. If you don't mind, can you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Absolutely. Thanks again for contacting me for Sampdoria. I'm Enrico Contini. I'm living in New York since 2010, so it's almost 10 years that I'm living in the Big Apple. I'm supporting Sampdoria since I was a kid. I was born in Genoa a very long time ago in 1984, and I still remember my first game at the stadium with my father in Genoa. It was in during the year of the Sampdoria Scudetto in 1990, and it's been a love story for me and the team since I was a kid. So it's basically my passion and my life since then. I joined New York 10 years ago, more or less, and I found other supporter that moved here in New York from many part of Italy, but especially from Liguria, from Genoa, and our region. And most of them are like me, supporter from the Scudetto time. And we also found some people that were living here in New York when Sampdoria won the Serie A. So the Sampdoria club has been founded in the 80s, in 1980s, by Giorgio Gibelli, which was a very passionate man and about soccer, of course, but passionate about sports in general. And he found other people, other supporters from Genoa, and more or less we have now 25 members of the Sampdoria Club New York, which is becoming now Sampdoria Club USA, because we do have supporters spread out all over the states. In the US, we have some supporters in Florida, other in California, and Minnesota, other states. So little by little, we are expanding our membership all over US. Very happy to talk with you about the situation. So unfortunately, it's not probably the best time to talk about soccer, but we are still here, and it's good to still talk about sports, right?
Correct. And the reason why I contacted you was to understand a little bit better how do you think your side has reacted to these stoppers of the season, and how do you expect them to return to the league?
As a supporter and as a Sampdoria club, New York, we of course we are sad that we cannot watch the game anymore. But also, it's a very tough situation, and we need to consider the situation in terms of the majority of the other people and the society. So it's good to stop the sports as of now, and we expect the Serie A not to start over again, even though now there is a date, and it seems that on June Serie A will start over again. For us, it really doesn't make any sense to finish this campionato and to finish the Serie A just for the sake of it. So we hope that at the end of the day, the Serie A will be stopped, and probably we will need to think to the next year straight over.
I see. I agree with you on that. Do
I
you
mean,
know?
our concern is more on the aspect of the coronavirus and how the society will defeat the virus. So sports, of course, is important, but right now the focus is how to defeat the virus and how to have people, recover from this sickness, and of course having more people like employed as well, because many people are being like laid off or furloughed from their companies, and there are other priorities now. And of course, soccer is a big it's very funny, and we all enjoy to watch soccer, but priorities in life now are a little bit different.
Absolutely. Do you know if any players in your club was tested positive? And how is the situation with testing there?
Yeah, Sampdoria unfortunately has probably the first players positive was Gabbiadini, and then other players tested positive, like Thorsby. There was De Pauli, and many more. I think also Yankto tested positive.
Collie, I think.
So yes, Collie too. So unfortunately, like other teams, Sampdoria get many players positive, and the testing is. I mean, I think people are testing very well now in Italy. Like especially soccer players are tested every day. The problem is, how they can, let's say, survive together with the virus and the possibility to play without, physical contact and without wearing a mask. It's gonna be very difficult for them. So at the end of the day, they're gonna risk the to get the coronavirus in order to play a simple game. So it's also very tough decision for Serie A and for all the players if they want to risk this kind of situation for their lives.
So since the training start back, all the players are negative now, or there is still some positive?
There were two positive again. The Sampdoria didn't release the names, but there were like 2 3 positive, and I think now they are like back again with the group. So they've been put in quarantine for like couple of weeks, and now they're back with the group. But yeah, they've been testing players every day. They check the fever every day. It's now the protocol is implemented very well in every team. We're only scared that it's impossible to play soccer without physical contact, and it's impossible to play soccer with a mask. So of course every player might occur to get the virus. We are more like worried about what is going to happen if one player will tested positive, and more than one per club. So if they're going to stop again the Serie A, or they're going to continue no matter what. So that's the big question mark.
Got it. And what's the situation with the training grounds and the space there for the team?
The training ground in Bogliasco, it's well equipped to have like social distancing between the players. So of course they can respect as much as possible during the training session the guidelines from the government. Of course, when it comes to a match, it's a totally different story. So once you can train by yourself in terms of physical training, while you have like the game with your teammates, you cannot of course respect the social distancing, and you cannot wear a mask. So it's just a matter of the game itself. I think that from the training perspective, every team is complying with the rules and with the regulation. When it comes to the game, it's gonna be difficult. So we'll see how it goes. We see that the German league, the Bundesliga, it's playing again, and they are not having like many positive players that are tested to coronavirus. So hopefully in Italy we're gonna see the same as Bundesliga.
Yeah, I really hope so. And speaking of the financial aspect of this break, how do you think that impact your club? Was like, how is the situation there?
The club, like any other like small club, it's gonna be impacted very badly by this situation, and of course, it depends on how the TV rights will be paid to every club, because as of now, for Sampdoria, the main financial source is like any other little team. I'm thinking about like Genoa, maybe Hellas Verona, the team that has no such a big number of fans and supporters. Of course, the main resource, financially speaking, financially wise, is the TV rights, and everything will depend on how the TV will pay that amount of money that they have to pay to the Serie A, and of course if the players will cut their salaries. Those are the two main like variable that will influence a lot the financial balance of the team. So I would say that in this kind of moment, historical moment, if the players will cut their salaries and will help Sampdoria or any other team to survive, it will be probably the best opportunity in order for the sports to go on. Otherwise, many teams will struggle because of the situation. We see many companies not in the sports business that are struggling keeping their employees, and everybody's struggling now in terms of financial perspective. I think that it's the moment for any players to kind of step in the situation and help the team with cutting their salary, because it's impossible for a team like Sampdoria or any other like Udinese, maybe the small team, to pay the full salary of players without getting like the stadium full and without having the money from the TV. So we really hope that all of this situation, the players will take a decision in order to help the team to still survive after the crisis.
Okay, and going a little bit more specific on Sampdoria, how is the situation with the president? I heard month ago that there was this rumor about your president trying to sell the club. How is the situation now? Is everything on hold? It was just fake news, you say. Do you know anything more about that?
We know more or less what was written in the newspaper. There was an offer from like an investor related to Gianluca Vialli. It seems that the offer was not an offer that Ferrero evaluates, and he didn't like the offer that they gave him. Probably was too low. Probably the offer was not even there. I mean, we don't know exactly what happened. What we know is that at the end of the day, Ferrero didn't want to sell to Vialli and to the investor that he represented, because the offer was too low. That was the basically what happened. And of course, he's still trying to sell. Ferrero is probably is not gonna keep the Sampdoria for a long time. We don't know. He's trying to sell it, but so far there are no other offer. And what we know is that until there will be an offer that satisfies him, unfortunately, we will need to still face this situation of uncertainty, because when the president wants to sell, you never know what is going to happen. Also, the players are not playing with a clear mind, and they're not like super happy of this uncertainty around Sampdoria. So we hope that we're going to find a solution, and there will be probably an offer big enough to satisfy Ferrero in order to sell. But so far, yes, there are no offer, and and Ferrero is keeping the company, keeps keeping Sampdoria, the team.
I see. Last question for you. How do you see the coming transfer windows going for you guys? Do you think this coronavirus financial impact will change your strategies? You think it's going to be any different for you, or you think that it's going to be like every other summer transfer window?
No, it's gonna be very difficult. It's gonna be very difficult, especially because we will have very, very, very little money in order to pay other players and to buy other players from the market. We will need probably to sell players before buying, as usual, like the team that are not like Milan, Juventus, or the big team with a lot of money. We always need to sell players before buying. And with this transfer market and the coronavirus situation, I'm not sure that there will be a lot of teams with money to spend, and it will be a very, very strange market. Also, we need to understand if the Serie A will finish on August, and then the championship then will start again on September. There will be like a very, very limited transfer window for the market, like 1 month, 2 months. And so many teams, I think they will not gonna change. They're not gonna change a lot. The team, especially the Sampdoria, or the team that are like not among the best 10 teams in Serie A. So I would say the lowest part of the ranking we'll definitely have like less choices to switch many players. Probably we'll see very limited market, and also it's gonna depend what will happen with the relegation. If what are gonna be the team that will be in Serie B, which are gonna stay in Serie A, which are gonna go to the European Cups. So a lot of uncertainty because of the we need to understand what is gonna happen with the results, and if the Serie A will finish. Once we finish, probably we have a clear idea, but we are forecasting, of course, a market that is going to be with very few money around, and probably just the big teams will be able to buy players, but the rest of the Serie A will probably stay as the same for the next year.
Do you have any player you think is gonna leave, or any rumors for players coming in?
No, usually, unfortunately, our best player usually leaves at the end of the year. We sold in the past years Torreira, Prat, like the best Skriniar to Inter, or Andersen to Lione. I mean, they are like those are were the best. I hope that Quagliarella will stay, and then I also hope that we can keep some of the good midfielder that we have, like Linetti, which is a very good Polish player. And yeah, I mean, probably we will see somebody leaving the team, and we hope that the replacement will be as the same value or even more than whoever is going to be sold. But I really think that the team will stay more or less the same. I mean, this year has been crazy, and it's also very difficult for a player that play this year to get like a transfer, because you didn't even like have the opportunity to show your value to the other teams, and to the other talent scout all over Europe. They played the championship started in September, and then around February we stopped it. So you really have no time in order to show your value, for example, for the young player, and unless you're already recognized as a talent and a top class player. But this is a different story. So I really think that at the end of the day, we'll see a market that is going to be maybe a lot of switch between teams, but just like exchanging players probably, but very few real deal, or like maybe the big team, Inter Milan, Juventus, Naples. But when it comes to the small team, probably we'll see very few changes.
Okay, yeah, I completely agree with you. It would be more of a loaning system this year.
Exactly.
Mm-mm. Okay, Enrico. Thank you very much. Do you have anything you want to plug in? Any Twitter account, Facebook group, anything
Yeah, you can
specific?
follow us on Facebook mainly. It's the main social media that we are using, Sampdoria Club New York. And then, you can send us email to, or private message to Facebook, and we can reply you if you have any interest in joining the club. And I hope that, we're going to see Serie A very soon in a different scenario.
Yeah, the same here. Enrico, thank you again, and be safe.
Thank you, Alessandro. You too.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Inter Worldwide. Today we're talking Cagliari, and the guest of today is Matteo Azzara from Forza Cagliari. Ciao, Matteo.
Hi everybody. Thanks for calling me.
So, Matteo, would you like to introduce yourself to our listener?
Sure, it will be short. My name is Matteo, as you said. I'm 35 years old. I live and work in Cagliari, and obviously I support Cagliari as well, as long as I was born here. And in my lifetime, I work for a fintech here in Italy. Actually, we have offices spread all over Europe, and because of COVID, now I am stuck in Sardinia and working remotely. And that's it for me.
Copy. And I want to thank your friend Nicola, that is the founder of Forza Cagliari,
Exactly.
and you can find that on Twitter. But later on, we're gonna give some contacts for you guys. So let's talk about your team.
Yeah.
How is the situation there? How the team reacted to this whole COVID, and how do you expect them to return?
Well, actually, the team looks more or less quite good, and the team resumed their trainings, and like I would say, in community, because since 10 days you just could train by yourself, and now the whole team is playing together, so everything looks better, and the whole situation is recovering. I would say that before this whole crisis, the team was performing not very well. So this was an opportunity to start over, to reset their mindsets, and to start trying to struggle for some good position. So that even though the situation is bad, at least we can find some good aspect of all this situation. And the whole climate looks better. The player look happy to be back to the pitch, and we have kind of good overlook, kind of a good outlook for the future, as the player are all together saying that they want to struggle to get the last place for EuroLeague, and we will see. The Campeonato should resume in 3 weeks. We will see if they are training well or not.
And how was the situation in Cagliari on in Sardinia in general?
Well, I can say that as long as we are an island, it was more difficult for us to, I would say, import this kind of disease. And we had few cases. Unfortunately, 130 persons died already. But we can say that we are almost out of the most critical phases, because it's since I would say 1 week that we have no new cases of infected persons. People are trying to hang out together. The clubs, pubs, or the restaurants as well are opening, so we are more or less back into business. And if nothing bad happens, we should have got rid of this COVID.
Any of the players of the staff member were infected?
Well, as far as we know, nobody was infected, even though as I said, very few cases in Sardinia. As long as we know, nobody got infected, everybody is safe and sound. So at this very moment, nobody has problems, and I hope for the future it will stay the same.
Good. And how is the situation with the training grounds and the space there in for Cagliari?
Well, I think we have kind of very modern, infrastructure, which is 10 kilometers far away from Cagliari in the countryside. And like there are plenty of open spaces, plenty of pitches where to train. They actually have a clubhouse where they could live in case of quarantine. So from an infrastructure point of view, we are one of the most advanced, squads teams in the whole Europe, I would say. So we were not highly affected from these kind of problems. So
Huh,
we are happy from that side.
that's fascinating. I
Yeah.
didn't know at all. In your opinion, Serie A should restart or not?
Well, actually, in this very moment, there should be a press conference from the sport minister, and they should announce that it could be, 13 or 20th of June, there
Mm-hmm.
where the Serie A could resume.
Yeah.
We actually don't know whether we should recover from the last, fixture, because 4 or 5 matches were delayed. So it's just a matter of saying that if Serie A will resume starting from those matches, or brand new giornata, as we say in Italy. So, but it's just a matter of 13 or 20. The problem is about the quarantine. Should a member of the team be infected? This has been questioned even those days. So there's kind of uncertainty about it. But we should resume the Serie A in 3 weeks or two.
But do you think it's a good idea or not?
Well, I think it is big from a monetary point of view, because I don't think that anybody in Italy is, stress waiting for the Serie A to resume. Actually, because as you can imagine, we have other problems. But if we do like in France or Netherlands or in Belgium, where they cut off the whole, championship, there will be, I would say, a disaster, because a lot of teams would not be able to pay their debts, or the salaries of their players and stuff like that. So if we cut off everything, I would say the half of them. First of all, the Sky will not pay for for the TV rights, and the teams will have just debts, and I would say at least half of them would fail. So I see a lot of reasons to resume the Serie A and at least try to have this season over and see what happens then for the next year.
And speaking about the financial point of view, how is the situation for your club?
I didn't read the balance sheet honestly, but I guess we are doing pretty well because the last year we were able to. Sorry, there's kind of mess now. Let me move. We were able to sell a big player, Barella, who allowed Cagliari to earn
We
a lot of
know.
money.
We know.
We sold it to Inter, so you know
Yep.
better than me. So in theory, I mean, we kind of reinvested, I would say, 100% of those income. So I'm pretty sure that we will survive. We could survive, and we kind of have a financial plan for the future who could allow us to struggle to stay in Serie A, at least not to fail. It depends. I'm not concerned. I think there are other clubs who are in a worse position than Cagliari. I think we are more or less safe and sound. In the worst scenario, we would be forced to sell some player or stuff like that. There are talks about, for example, Nandes or other players. So I don't see a bad future for Cagliari. Maybe we will have to be, more quiet and without having dreams of, going to some European competition and stuff. But we will see.
Speaking of the transfer market, how do you think it will be affected by the virus, at least from Cagliari point of view? You think it's gonna be different? You think
Right.
you guys
It must be different because the whole world changed. So definitely there are not so many monies to be invested. Everybody's saying that the next transfer market will be based on loans and on exchange of players. So I don't see any big deal to be done like it happened in the past where a player could cost 100 or 200 million. So I see something very smaller regarding related to the past. And for Cagliari, as I say, I don't see any. It's more likely for us to sell some good players, as I said, like Nandes, or I don't know. There are talks about João Pedro to be sold to Rome or to Turin. It was also about PSG, but I don't believe it. So maybe we will be forced to sell some of those players and to invest in youngsters from our youth squad. But we will see. It's gonna be different from the past for sure.
Okay. So how was the situation right before we stopped the season for you guys? What was the injury situation, and what was the last game you played, if
I
you
think
remember?
the last game was awful for sure. Yeah, it was against Rome, and we were able to lose like 2-3 against Rome. Yeah, and we were crumbling literally because at least since Christmas we were performing so good. We were winning almost all the games. We were in the fourth or fifth position. I don't even remember. After that, the team got relaxed because I guess they thought that all their goals were already reached. So they didn't want maybe to struggle to something more ambitious or something happened for sure, because after that we lost almost all the games and we were performing very very bad, like even very bad matches. I think just with Inter we managed to do 1-1 with a more or less pretty decent match, even though Lukaku said that 10 players of Inter were affected by some strange flu. So we don't know whether it was our best or it's something happened by your side. Anyway, we were performing very bad. So as I said, having 2 months of break surely didn't got our situation worse. So the future couldn't be worse, as I said. So in theory, we could manage to do some decent game and to save our honor.
So
That's my idea.
what's your prediction? What do you think is gonna happen if we resume the Serie A?
For Cagliari,
Yeah.
I think that we could win some game and nothing more than that. I see a lot of players thinking about holidays or some other stuff. So I would be happy if we win, 3 games and we reach, 45 or 50 points. At least we end the season on the left side of the Classifica, of the Classement. So I think that's achievable. Of course, if we keep losing all the games, we could even be involved in a relegation struggle. So you never know. But I guess this is kind of difficult. So if we win 2 or 3 games, maybe with you know teams which are struggling not to relegate, it would be good for us. I think we should think more about the next season if it will ever start.
Uh, Speaking of next season, last question. It's about one particular player. I don't know if you can imagine who. That is on loan from us.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, do you have any news about Raja's situation? Do you think he's gonna come back to Inter? Do you think he's gonna stay
Well,
there? How's the
I wish
situation with the family there?
I had some news. Actually, nobody knows. I think even Rajan Angolan doesn't have any idea. As you know, his wife is from Sardinia, and unfortunately, she had that kind of strong disease, so they were kind of forced to stay here. For the future, the recent days, the manager of Cagliari spoke, even the president. They say that in case Inter wants to, sell the players, they will be on the, on the top of the list to try to buy him. But I don't think he's going to be sold to some side like Fiorentina or Sampdoria for, they said 15 millions. I don't really believe it. So I guess that if in case he is not staying in Italy, which in Inter, sorry, which would be the most reasonable solution, I guess. Maybe if the players want to stay here, they will try to find an agreement, maybe for 10 millions or I don't know, something like that. And the situation with Barella is still open, so maybe they can have a discount from that side. But it's all about the player. If the player wants to stay here, Cagliari will buy him. If he's still, thinking about, gaining some Champions League or some Scudetto, maybe he can stay in Inter. He can try to convince Conte. Maybe he can do the preseason, training with Inter and try to convince Conte. And maybe if not, if this won't happen, maybe he can come back to Cagliari, maybe on loan again. I think it's 50-50 so far. I would stay in Inter if I was in Angolan, because staying in Cagliari means also that his salary should be reduced or something like that. So it's very unpredictable. I hope he will join Cagliari again. If not, it was still a good season, this last one with him.
Was it good in your opinion? He had a good season.
Well, the start of the season was not so good because obviously he was not in shape. He didn't train properly, I guess. Because he was low. He was playing goals in a bad position because I was training, didn't find a good position. He was playing in front of the defense line, which definitely is not his better position. After 5 or 6 games, I can definitely say that he took the team by his hand, and he managed to score a lot of goals, a lot of assists. So he was definitely our leader and well-deserved captain. So he was performing very well. But when his personal shape decreased, the whole team had bad stroke, if you want to say that. So we started losing games. So when he's playing good and in a good shape, we are winning and we are performing very well. Otherwise, it's a disaster. So he was the most important player for us, for sure.
Okay, Matteo. Thank you so much for joining
Thank you,
us.
well.
And do you have any contact that you want to plug in? Any Twitter account, Facebook, or anything?
Well, actually, I'm out of all these social media things, so I don't think I can. But thanks for asking.
Of course. Just I want to thank Nicola again, and
Me
you can
too.
find Nicola at Forza Cagliari on Twitter on at Quelli del Sito.
Yeah, correct.
QuelliddelSito. Quelli del Sito. Matteo, thanks again,
Thanks
and
again.
I hope next time we talk, the Serie A will be playing.
I hope so. In case we will catch up together again.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi everyone. We are with Alessandro Valerio. Today we're talking about Verona, and Alessandro is a big fan of Verona. He lives in New York. Alessandro, how are you today?
Hi everybody. I'm fine, thanks. So thanks very much for inviting me. My team is Hellas Verona. I started to be their supporter because I'm originally from Verona. I was born in Verona, and my father and my grandfather were supporters as well of the same team. So we used to go all together at the stadium with our seasonal tickets since I was a child, let's say.
And how is right now? You're in New York, right? How is watching the games there? Were you able to find other supporters?
Oh yeah, we have a small club of supporters here in New York, and we are able from time to time to watch the games all together. It's not something that happens so frequently because of the time of the games. Sometimes it's not so easy, especially if they are at 1 p.m. In Italy. It's too early to get all together. But some of us have always other ways to watch the games by their own by their own at home. So we try to follow the club as much as possible, even if the time zone sometimes is not so helpful for us.
Yep, I totally get that. Okay, so as you know, I have a list of questions for you. So let's jump into it. The first question is, how do you think your side has reacted to the stopping of the season, and how do you expect them to return to the league? And like injuries, momentum, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so Hellas Verona was having an amazing season. It's a medium club. It's not one of the major clubs, but the ranking was in the top 8 for this season, and this is something that doesn't happen so frequently. I think it's best ranking they were having in the last probably 20 seasons. So I suppose that the team and the supporters were quite disappointed about this season being interrupted. Uh, and I expect them to come back as strong as they were before, taking into account that each team has the same level of athletic preparation. The group is very good, meaning that the players we have some good surprises that we were not expecting to be so strong. But you see that the group is quite happy to play all together, probably thanks to our coach Ivan Juric. And I don't know. It will take some time to come back at the same level as every other team. So we start all together at the same level. It's like a beginning of a new season. Probably even worse because it's the time that they're staying at home is longer than what they are used to. And from the supporter side, I suppose it's the same because having the team having a good season helps for the morale. So the fans were more excited than usual. Verona was able to beat Juventus, which is something that doesn't happen so frequently to our team. And it happened just before the stop of the season. So at the same time, I think that the supporters understand the current situation. So on the one hand, they are disappointed. On the other hand, they understand because Verona is quite close to Lombardy. It's in the northeast of Italy, and I'm pretty sure that they have understood why the league had to stop.
Yeah, I'm sure. And second question is really easy, just a yes or no if you want, or if you want to explain a little bit more. But do you think the season should restart or not?
That's a tricky question. I would say yes. Yes. It's If I think just with my heart, I would say that there is no soccer without the supporters physically in the stadium. At the same time, we can pragmatically say that the soccer is not just a sport anymore. It's a real entertainment business. It gives work to so many people that are not only the soccer players that we all can watch on the TV, but there are a lot of people behind the scenes working for that. So I would treat it exactly in the same way as other non-essential businesses and industries are going to be treated in the coming weeks in Italy. I'm expecting not to have the supporters on the stadium, but at least to start again, yes, something short probably. Yes, something like playoffs and playouts directly to not have a full season, because I suppose that the new season will start again in September, October, and there is the usual summer break for market transfers, teams to start again their preparation. But I hope that it will start again, and I think that in one way or another, as other countries are doing, it will start again.
Do you know if any player or any staff member or your team was tested positive? And how do you think the situation with testing will play out since the season resume? And how is the situation with? Sorry, it's a very long question, a lot of things, but
That's okay.
how do you think the situation with the training grounds and space is in Verona?
So Verona had for sure one player. The club officially communicated that one player was tested positive. His name is Mattia Zaccagni. He's he plays in the midfield and he plays for Hellas Verona since a long time. I think it's like 6 or 7 years he plays with us. He was tested positive. He was not in danger for his life. But at the same time, it took him something like 5 weeks to turn negative from the beginning of the communication from the club. So it's a long time for him to come back healthy, let's say. The second part of the question, I mean, what I'm expecting with the season to restarting is that soccer is a sport of contact. You can't avoid it. It's not like tennis. So in trainings during the week, in the games during the weekend, players will be in contact one to the other, and they will need to be tested more frequently than usual. The usual people that you can find on the street. I mean, I don't know if weekly testing is something that is feasible. I understand that it's not so fair to test weekly some players while out in the normal world and in the main street you have people who were not able to be tested even if they were really sick. But it's something that these clubs can afford and probably will do privately.
And what's the situation with the field and the training grounds? Do you think Verona is able to deal with this situation? I know, for example, for us, we have players staying in the training ground, but there wasn't like enough room for everybody. For that was a little bit of a problem. So, do you know how the situation for Hellas?
So Hellas Verona has no more space than Inter to train for sure. I'm quite sure about it. But they have their dedicated sport center. They can go back and forth in the training center with their cars. So they will start probably separately, doing some physical exercise by their own. But honestly, at one point, and I think it will happen very soon, all the teams will start to train as usual with contacts. and we see if there are new cases. It's a problem again. Hopefully it won't happen, but you know, you see so many images of people in the streets, including the squares of Verona. There were some images and photos that I was looking on the internet this morning, where the main square was full of people drinking cocktails and wine last night. So I don't see the soccer players being in more danger than all these people drinking cocktails in the square.
Right. You were mentioning the difference of size for your club. At the same time, you were saying that you guys were having an amazing season. But all this, what do you think are the financial impacts on your club? What do you think that this break um, brought on your club? Are you optimistic, or do you think the FIGC, the Italian Federation, should be doing more to assist clubs to stay afloat?
So Hellas Verona as a owner that is not so rich as Inter or the other big clubs. So the club is basically financially is not dependent from the owner. Every penny that comes into the club goes back basically. So costs and revenues are almost at the same level. And this event is not so easy to manage. It doesn't have extra money in his pocket to cover all the costs as if the season was going to go regularly, and especially players' salary is a big part of the cost for the club. I'm really surprised that the clubs and the players were not able to sit together around the table and define a salary cut that was, let's say, aligned with the reduction of the revenues for the club. It's something that I think it would have been fair compared to other normal jobs, just because this was an unpredictable event. And in this specific case, probably the associated risks should have been spread between all the actors of the chain, especially the owners of the club and the football players. I hope that this is going to be a lesson learned for future contracts that will be signed starting from this summer. On the FIGC side, to be completely honest, I don't know how much money they have available. I suppose that the amount is quite limited, and I personally would prefer to see this money going to be spent in the minor leagues, already starting with the Championship or Serie B in Italian, and below. These clubs probably are suffering even more from this point of view, and their balance sheet is probably even weaker than the major clubs that are playing in the Premiership.
Yeah, I agree with you. Something that may help you guys is the future transfer window. I know you have very good players, a couple of nice surprises. How do you think this summer transfer would go? Also thinking about contracts and player going in and out. How do you think it's going to play out?
So as you said, Hellas Verona had an amazing season. Probably it was the biggest surprise of all the Serie A, and the players have gained a lot of value on the market compared to the beginning of the season. So two players have already been sold in the January market, with the difference that we're still playing for the rest of the season in Verona before leaving and going in another team. So we have two players. One is Ramani, who is a defender, He's been sold to Naples for around, I think, 14 million euros. While we have another midfielder, Rabat. He was sold in January again to Fiorentina for 20 million of euros. So this is big money for a club as Verona that have already been sold, and it will already come at the end of the season. And these prices were, let's say, full prices before this COVID situation. There are even more players that are on the market. As I said, our owner is not rich and is not doing it as a non-profit. There are other players on the market that I know, at least I know. Reading the newspapers in Italy, it seems that they have a lot of market. One of them is Kumbulla. The majority of the big teams seem interested into him. Inter is one of them as well. He has a big value on the market. He's a guy that is coming from the under 21 and even before in Verona, because he was born and raised in Verona. So he's one of them. There is the goalie as well as some market. It seems we have another player on the wing that seems to be interesting for the market. So there are a lot of players that potentially will leave the team. My hope is to keep some of them, or at least, if not possible, to reinvest the money in some interesting prospects. And really, when I say, I mean, spending the money is buying these some young prospects that can replace these players, which is not what usually happens in Hellas Verona. I'm sure that another target of the club is to confirm the coach, who was a big part of this success this season. And historically, in the last years in Verona, what is missing is a stronger forward. After Luca Toni, we didn't have someone as strong as him to score goals. So this is probably the biggest objective for the market that I hope to see. And this is just from the team players' perspective. The last aspect is really building a more long-term strategy around the young players. It's something that the club usually says that it's important, they are investing in it, etc. In practice, or practically, I didn't see it so developed in the last years, or I mean, not more than in the past. So all in all, a lot of money that is coming in probably. So half of the team needs to be replaced probably. But we started with the financial situation that is quite good. So I'm expecting this money to be reinvested on the market and in general to improve the situation of the club.
So you don't think that this whole COVID situation had so much of an influence on your strategy?
No, I mean, it has an influence, but
Not so
you have
strong.
to take into consideration that the club has already something almost more than 30 million euros coming in, and for the size of our club is already a lot of money coming in, and it's already secured because they were players who signed in January, and so the contract is locked. You can't go back on these two players. On top of it, you have other players with the market, but I mean. We will see some players being sold for less than what we expected in the past, probably because the revenues are going down. But you sell for less and you buy for less. So all in all, I think that financially it's something that can be okay for the club.
Okay. Just a quick follow-up. You mentioned Kumbulla, and as you said, Inter is one of the team, if not the team, that is linked to this player. Can you spend a little more words on this player? Can you describe it a little bit better?
Yeah, I mean, it's for this. It's a very young guy. He's below 20s. Spent all his career in Verona, playing for all the young teams. It's his first year in in Serie A for him. So it's quite new. But the performance that he has shown so far was, well, I don't know if it one of the best defensors that we have seen during the season, despite the young age. And it seems that he has a big margin to improve. So Verona is playing with three defenders, like the majority of the big teams. So he's already in the mechanism to play in this way. You don't have to retrain him. So the time to have him ready to play is shorter, probably, even if his age is very young. So it's a prospect that if you read on the newspapers, there's not only Inter. They talk about classic Juventus, Lazio, some teams outside Italy. Verona has a good relationship on the market with Inter. Just to give you an example, right now in the team we have some players coming from Inter. One of them is Salcedo, and the other one is Di Marco. They are both playing in Verona right now. They can be some players that maybe Verona will be interesting to exchange to lower down the cash that Inter will pay. Lazio as well. They have some players that are interesting. Historically, the owner of Verona is close to Claudio Lotito down in Rome. So I don't know what will happen with this guy. I don't think he will stay, just because the value is so high that usually the owner of Verona is used to sell the players as soon as they have a good market. So historically, this is his position, unfortunately. But I mean, I would be happy to keep him a year more if possible, because as I said, he's a good prospect. I don't see him going down. So the value can be good now, and I don't see why he wouldn't be a good catch in 1 year more.
Yeah, for our listener, if they don't know this player, can you compare it to another center back? Anybody that reminds you, Kamula?
He's a big guy.
Okay.
Despite the age, he's quite big. He's a smart guy at the same time. I don't know honestly how to compare to who.
Okay. It's more like rough, or it likes to, I don't know, like to steal the ball to the other player before it gets to him, or it's more like, I don't know, like a stump kind of player where it's like more physical.
It's not like a stam. It's a little bit less than a stam, but it's not. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to do comparison with the big players in Inter, but you had Walter Samuel, big guy.
Okay.
Strong one.
I didn't want to mention him, but yeah, that usually when people talks about him, they say like, "Oh, it's like a young Samuel." So yeah, I like this. Okay, last question. If the season is going to be completed, what position do you think Verona is going to end to?
So let's see if the season will really continue and we want to play directly the playoffs. It would be, for Verona, it would be a great opportunity to have the playoffs, because the team currently is in the first in the first 8. So, you know, having quarters of final, semi-final, and final could be interesting in my view from a perspective of TV. show, as a TV show, and at the same time for our club, egoistically, it's a good opportunity. With the season starting again, it's very difficult to know what is going to happen. Honestly, above the position we are currently, there are so many big clubs that I don't know. It's very difficult to be in a ranking that is higher than what we currently have. For the rest, we are safe. We don't have issues. We for sure to go down in Serie B. So that's I hope that we keep the same ranking.
Okay. And just to remind me, honestly, I do not remember what was in theory, what was your next match?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I totally forgot. It was so long time ago.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I do not remember the next Inter game. So as
I don't know.
I said in the previous episode, to me this season is over. So I already forgot a lot of things about the previous season, or like this current season. So it's completely fine. Don't worry, you're not the only one.
Yeah.
Okay, Alessandro, thank you so much.
Thank you
and
to you.
Yeah, I hope you have you back on the show in a more like normal situation.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye,
All right.
everybody.
Bye bye.